Hey everyone! Welcome back to English Shining. In today's episode, we're diving into a fun and thoughtful topic. Would you rather travel alone or with friends? You'll learn how to express your opinions, speak naturally, and build confidence in English. Let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of English Shining. I'm Holly, your host today, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Grab your tea, coffee, or whatever makes you feel cozy, because today we're diving into one of my favorite conversation topics. Would you rather travel alone or with friends? This topic is perfect for learning natural English expressions, how to express your opinions, compare ideas, and add depth to your speaking skills. Let's warm up. In English, would you rather is a super common way to ask someone to choose between two options. It's fun, useful, and used all the time in casual conversations. For example, would you rather go to the beach or the mountains? Easy, right? Today, we're going to use this question, would you rather travel alone or with friends? To explore vocabulary, grammar, and ways to speak fluently and naturally. I'll also share real-life tips, examples, and a few funny travel stories.
But before we move forward, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to English Shining. That way, you'll get early updates every time we drop a new lesson. Let's keep learning together.
So let's get into it. Let's start with vocabulary. When we talk about travel, there are tons of useful words you can use. Some common ones are adventure, explore, itinerary, backpacking, sightseeing, solo trip, group tour, budget travel, hostel, guided tour. Now think about this. If you travel alone, you might say things like, I'm planning a solo trip through Europe. Or, I love the freedom of traveling alone. On the other hand, if you travel with friends, you might say, we're going on a group tour of Thailand. Or, I enjoy sharing travel memories with others. Let's practice describing a preference. If you prefer solo travel, you could say, I would rather travel alone because I enjoy independence. Notice the structure. I would rather travel alone. You can also say, I prefer to travel alone. Or, I like the flexibility of making my own plans. Now, if you prefer traveling with friends, you could say, I love traveling with friends. It's more fun and less lonely. Or, having company on a trip makes everything better. Let's add more fluency to your speaking. You can use connectors like because, although, while, however, on the other hand, in contrast, personally, for example, such as. So here's a longer sentence example. Although traveling alone gives me freedom, I sometimes prefer to have company, especially in unfamiliar places. Or, traveling with friends is fun, but on the other hand, planning with a group can be stressful. Fluency tip number 1. Don't rush. Pause between ideas. It's okay to take a moment to think. Native speakers do it all the time. You can use filler phrases like, well, let me think. That's a tough one. Honestly speaking, you know what I mean? Now let me share a funny travel moment. One time I decided to travel alone in Italy. I was feeling brave, independent, ready for adventure, until I got completely lost in Venice. No GPS, no map, no clue where my hostel was. I ended up following a group of other confused tourists, just hoping they were lost in the same direction. That's when I realized solo travel builds character, but sometimes friends are useful, especially for reading maps. Let's learn how to politely disagree or add a personal touch. You might hear someone say, traveling alone is boring. You could respond with, well, I see your point, but I think it depends on the person. Or, personally, I find solo travel peaceful. Remember, agreeing and disagreeing politely is a valuable speaking skill. Let's now practice some expressions for sharing opinions. Here are a few you can use. In my opinion, from my perspective. To be honest, what I've found is speaking from experience. Use them to start your sentences. For example, in my opinion, solo travel is the best way to discover who you are. Speaking from experience, group travel can be a bit chaotic. Now, let's look at common mistakes. One mistake learners make is forgetting the structure of would you rather. For example, saying, I would rather to travel alone. That's incorrect. You should say, I would rather travel alone. No to after rather. Another mistake is trying to use too many complicated words. You don't need to say, I would rather undertake an independent exploration. Just say, I like traveling alone. Simple, natural language is powerful. Now let's do a pronunciation check. Try repeating these phrases with me slowly. I'd rather travel alone. Traveling with friends is exciting. I love making spontaneous plans on my own. Say them a few times out loud. Feel the rhythm of natural English. It's not robotic. It's smooth and connected. Now, let's compare the pros and cons. Pros of traveling alone. Freedom to choose your schedule. Peace and quiet self-discovery. No compromise cons of traveling alone can get lonely safety concerns planning everything yourself. No one to share jokes with, like that time I accidentally ordered raw squid in Japan. Yup. I smiled politely, then ran for noodles. Pros of traveling with friends. Shared memories, splitting costs, emotional support. Someone always has a phone charger. Cons of traveling with friends. Conflicting schedules. Different interests, group decision stress. That one friend who always takes forever to pack, you know who you are. Now, let's talk about building conversation around this topic. If someone asks you this question, how do you respond naturally? Here's an example answer. Well, I actually enjoy both, but if I had to choose, I'd say I prefer traveling with friends. It's just more fun when you can laugh together, share meals, and even argue about directions. But solo trips help me recharge, so I guess it depends on my mood. Practice giving answers like this aloud. Change the structure, try different vocabulary. That's how you build fluency. Here's another version. To be honest, I'd choose solo travel. I love being able to do what I want without checking with anyone. I can wake up late, skip the museums, or just sit in a cafe and people watch. Fluency tip number 2, tell stories. Native speakers often share stories when answering questions. Instead of just saying, I like traveling alone, share an experience. I remember my trip to Bali. I was alone, but I ended up meeting amazing people from all over the world. It turned out to be one of the best adventures I've ever had. You can also ask your listeners or friends this question. Try saying, what about you? Would you rather travel alone or with friends? Why? That keeps the conversation going and shows confidence in speaking. Let's quickly review all the things we covered today. How to express preferences using would you rather? Useful travel-related vocabulary. How to compare ideas using connectors. Giving opinions with fluency and clarity. Common mistakes to avoid. Funny personal stories to connect with listeners, polite disagreement, and asking for others' opinions. Before we wrap up, here's a little challenge for you. Choose your side, solo or group, and record yourself speaking about it for 2 minutes. Use some of the phrases we've learned today. It could be, in my opinion, solo travel is great because, or I'd rather travel with friends since. Don't worry about being perfect. Focus on being clear, expressive, and confident. That's all for today's lesson. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you had fun thinking about your travel style and learning to express it in English. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and as always, stay curious, stay kind, and keep shining with your English. See you in the next episode.